Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Oracle Power PLC Q2 update and shareholder Q&A. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your question at any time and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, we would like to submit the following poll, and if you would give that your kind attention, I'm sure that would be most appreciated by the company. And I'd now like to hand over to CEO Naheed Mamoon. Good afternoon. Good morning to you. My apologies. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Thank you. So I think we should begin with, I'd like to give a very brief introduction to the company, especially for those people who don't know about us. But I'd like to say at the very offset that this whole presentation is available. So I won't take too much time, just a very brief overview of what we are. So we, up until a couple of years ago, we were just developing one single coal mining project, coal mining power, and which later became coal to gas and liquid project in Pakistan. Since then, we are now a diversified platform for project development, and we are developing projects in currently in principally two jurisdictions, in Australia and in Pakistan. And I will just pick this slide, which gives us a snapshot of all the three sort of projects. I bunched the two that we have in Australia together. So we are currently working on two potentially gold mining projects in Western Australia and near Perth. One is called the Northern Zone and the other one is Jundi East. We spent the whole of last year in doing various exploratory work on both these tenements. And one of them has returned fantastic results. That's called the Northern Zone. And we've published those results. We've sort of got a good indication of what this could possibly, in which direction this would go. And we think that we possibly have, a mine. We're looking at various options to explore that and build that towards, taking it to a sort of a JORC resource and then moving onwards from there. So we are at that stage at Northern Zone. The Jundi East project, which was, which is close to one of the largest mines in Australia. We have drilled there as well. We are currently going through the results and we're trying to understand what is the best way forward there. That is what's happening in Western Australia. We're also developing one of the most significant projects for us, and I think globally something very, very important because we've now become a part of the green energy space. We have set about setting up a green hydrogen production facility in the wind corridor in Sindh in Pakistan. This is a 400 megawatt green hydrogen production facility, which will use 1200 megawatts of renewable power. And we are currently in the process of making our arrangements on ground and expect to be on ground very soon. Towards this sort of development, we have already got very, very significant and key relationships in place from the financing perspective. His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmook Al Maktoum, who's also a shareholder in Oracle Power, has come in directly into the development of this project on ground in Pakistan. And we also have an arrangement with Power China for any sort of renewable energy work that we will do on ground, because this is a huge sort of setup. We're looking at 1200 megawatts. That is, many square kilometers of land, etc. And we envisage the whole setting up of an industrial park development. This is just a few it's like 100 kilometers from the port, so it's ideally located, and we're looking at a lot of different relationships in the region as well as in Europe for offtake. We're also in conversation for technology in various European countries, etc. So all of that is ongoing, and we're very, I would say, some conversations are very advanced in this space. Then we are also continuing to pursue our first principal project that Oracle had in Pakistan, which is the development of Block 6. It's a coal mine, spread over 66 kilometers. We have, our studies very early on had confirmed a resource of 1.4 billion tons of coal. So we have that. It's lignite coal. This coal has already been tested, and a tenement, a block, as they're called there, just next to ours, is already producing power from this. And we are also in CPEC, which is a China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a financing arrangement between Pakistan and China. We also are part of this program for coal to power as well as for coal to gas and liquid, which we started to develop into end of 2019. So the project in itself has grown in size and its potential. So that still carries on. There are obviously, concerns that the government has had, we've had, people have had, investors have, and then there is a resurgence of, again, a demand, etc. So this particular project is still very, very, very relevant. In fact, of late has become even more relevant, but we still await certain government permissions in order to continue on that front. So this is, where we are at, and I think that the details for all the other projects, the ones that I've described, are very much, a part of this presentation. And I think if I can leave it at that and take the questions, perhaps, and all the interested parties, shareholders, and our investors and future investors could go back and have a look in detail at what we have there. And I'm happy to then take any questions, through our various sort of communication channels.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Nahid, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. And just to echo what Nahid has said, the slide deck shown here today is available on the Investor Meet Company immediately after this presentation. Nahid, thank you very much for that update. And I know you wanted to spend a lot of time taking as many investor questions as you could through today. And I know we have about half an hour scheduled for today's meeting. Questions are already coming in, but we did receive a number of pre-submitted questions. I'm going to take questions from both the live meeting and those that were pre-submitted as well. So if I may, Nahid, start with the first one, which reads as follows. The Northern Zone Gold Project in Western Australia has demonstrated further excellent results with gold recoveries of up to 94.7% after 24 hours from metallurgical test work. Why has there been no drilling results on the Jundee East project mentioned in the Q2 report?
Right. So we started work on the Jundee East project last year. In fact, very soon after acquiring the tenement, and once we had all our data, that was, the historical data sets organized. In fact, we sort of reorganized all of that data, and then we did our geochem, geophysical sort of analysis. We did all of that, and then we went for the drilling. So as we speak right now, we are currently reviewing the results that we have got, the assays, and we have sort of sent them back to our geologists, our teams, to actually look at them. And I believe that we would be, this Jundee East is just 7 or something kilometers from Jundee mine, which is one of the largest sort of mines in Australia, and which has which returns a lot of gold. So we are sort of hoping that we also are able to confirm some mineralization, which would be valuable on Jundee East. But at this point in time, we are reviewing the assays. Have not really published what we are looking at and what the future direction would be, but we would be updating the market as soon as we are in a better position to do so.
That's great, thank you. If I may just turn to the next question. In the annual report, it mentions Jundee East and Northern Zone projects are progressing. The geological surveys and test drilling reports are looking very encouraging. And we've been approached by other mining companies in the area which are looking to form joint ventures to advance these projects. How are these joint ventures progressing, and are they for both Northern Zone and Jundee East, or just the Northern Zone?
Right. So we are obviously looking at both opportunities and assessing various sort of avenues. However, in the first instance, because we have confirmed analysis based on the results that we got from Northern Zone, we are, I would say, in the immediate sort of term, looking more towards finalizing a possible arrangement for further development of Northern Zone immediately. But having said that, if I can repeat, we are clearly considering both. But as a first, because we have final sort of direction, a clearer direction for Northern Zone, that would be the first for us to return with a sort of a more firm arrangement going forward.
That's great. Next question is slightly long-winded, so I'll paraphrase it. So apologies to the investor that submitted the question, but it talks about your projects in Pakistan, both the conventional power interests and the new venture into clean energy, talking about lots of memorandums of understanding, MOUs. So the question is, Oracle have a lot of MOU agreements. When are these going to see binding contracts that actually refer to something more?
Right. So, contracts are generally, as one understands, in relation to buying or selling, to put it very simply. And that normally commences once a project starts, enters a construction phase. And that's when you have a potential product, or you are potentially then procuring technology or equipment or whatever. So that buy and take, which is what a contract is all about, buy or sell rather. So that's that stage, and that is of course subsequent to where we are now. And I believe that we would be there sooner than later, given the sort of imminent progress on ground, and in both jurisdictions, in Australia as well as in Pakistan. But just to sort of make clear the relevance of MOUs, these MOUs are important because they are key substantial relationship agreements, and based on which these contracts in future are formed. So these MOUs, be it the two that we recently announced or the ones that we have had, are all the building blocks of the future contracts, as well as the future, the future success of all the projects that are in question.
Thank you. There's been a number of questions, so thank you to John K, who submitted a question around share price, as well as Connor D. So thank you to you both. But if I may just take one question, it says over the last 5 years, the Oracle share price has dropped around 87%, 86% on one person's question. But can you explain why this is so?
Of course. So for those who've been with the company for a while and have seen its development, are also aware that up until 2020, this company was just a single project, single jurisdiction company. And since that project was delayed, the company faced a lot of sort of ups and downs, etc. And we've done all the all the sort of the building work for that project. But I said that's the coal project I'm referring to, but we still await permissions to proceed. And meanwhile, then we decided to diversify and build upon the platform that we have and pick up on very relevant, important, and valuable opportunities, and which we have done. These opportunities are now in the development stage. And I believe that as soon as even one or two get across the line, there should be, I hope, I believe, and I'm counting on this too, a surge in value. So in response to the shareholder and to all the shareholders who have questions about this, it's just a case of now waiting for that upside and counting on the development that is ongoing right now and all the efforts that are being put in.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Let me turn to the next question, and I will read it out in full just to make sure everything is in context. £400,000 was raised in Pakistan via Oracle Energy at 10 rupees per share for green hydrogen project from His Highness Sheikh Dalmuk Al Maktoum and Oracle Power. Why raise at a substantial premium in Pakistan when Oracle Energy isn't even listed? His Highness Sheikh Al Maktoum could have easily purchased shares in Oracle Power at a discount price, and monies could be used for Oracle Energy. In the end, he paid something like 1,000% premium to Oracle Power share price. Can you explain the setup, how this price was determined, and who decides on how many and when the shares can be issued?
So to develop a project in Pakistan or any other jurisdiction, I mean, the projects that we develop in Australia or in Pakistan, etc., are done through subsidiary companies, or you can call them special purpose vehicles or whatever. You need companies in the jurisdiction in which the projects operate to actually run the project and to run the company and to own the assets. which belong to that project. So it's a project company. So Oracle Energy is just that. And, there is going to be a lot of value that will be built within this company, etc., as well as a lot of monies that will need to be spent on the project itself in Pakistan directly. His Highness is I would say committed, is completely convinced, and his conviction is I have never seen anything to that extent, that this whole belief in the green hydrogen business, and the sort of his shift towards green energy is very significant, and hence he wanted to be a much sort of bigger and a more sort of relevant part of the development directly in this project. That's one. And secondly, of course, from Oracle Power's standpoint, we are building another project in Pakistan where we already have one project. I was very cognizant of people's money, risk, etc., including my own. So to mitigate that risk was important. And if His Highness was willing to directly invest and help us take this project to financial close, to build it together with us, it meant that Oracle Power's monies would then be, required in a lesser quantum. And so Oracle Energy, the way it's been set up is that Oracle Power owns 30%, and His Highness, through his subsidiary or his company called Kahil Energy, owns 70%. Coming to the share subscription, both the parties, which is Oracle Power and His Highness, we subscribe at the same rate going forward. We are increasing the capitalization because as the requirements to sort of purchase necessary assets and do studies, etc., and all of that as it builds up. And of course, we'll update the market on all those developments as those continue. More monies will need to come in, and we would really like that to be in a way which puts less burden on Oracle Power, because we are a development platform and we've got other projects as well. This is key, probably the most important project, given the current global alignment. But having said that, this is risk mitigation. His Highness also sits in a place of huge influence in the Middle East, where there is a lot of money for projects like this. Also technology partnerships and buybacks, etc., this whole nexus, he sits right in the middle of that, and we have a very good working relationship. So we're working together, and I believe that will be very beneficial for Oracle Energy, but of course for Oracle Power as well. And as I said, the subscription price is the same. Rupees 10 is just a nominal, the sort of face value. It's just an easy denomination. And we are building this company together, keep capitalizing it, and keep developing the project. That's the modus operandi.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Maybe just following on, Oracle Energy has just started in its journey in Pakistan. His Highness Al Maktoum has recently purchased around £270,000 worth of shares. Has anyone else shown interest in acquiring Oracle Energy shares, possibly Power China?
So we already have an understanding with Power China, but we have not taken any money from them as yet. And if I may say so, it's very early to actually bring in people. We are very careful about this because I would potentially like any divestment to happen at a premium going forward, because we put ourselves into this and we do all the work. So if any other company wants to come in, they come in at a stage when we feel that we can maximize on their sort of the price and how we allow them entry. So the way we will build this, and we will of course look for the right sort of investment from parties, including Power China, of course, but it has to be at a price which makes sense for us, and it delivers the return that we are looking for. And I know that there is tremendous return in a project like this. It is really sort of a seller's market currently. Green hydrogen, one can see what's happening globally and how systems are being put in place, logistics are being set up for this industry to develop going forward. So I think we're sitting really on the cusp of a development which could pay everyone involved substantially well going forward. So we would like to deliver that for our shareholders. So bringing in right now anybody just because we need some money makes no sense. And especially that is exactly why, going back to the previous question, that is exactly why we have a partnership with His Highness, because then we understand that we would not be, in a situation where we're really stuck at any point.
That's great. Thank you. Let's turn to the next question, if I may. Oracle Power's market capitalization is only £10 million, yet they're pursuing two massive multi-billion-dollar projects, assets in Pakistan, green hydrogen and the Thar Block 6. It seems like these projects are too big for Oracle Power to fund stroke handle. Don't you think it might be a better idea to sell one and raise funds for the other? Or do you think Oracle Power is capable of handling projects side by side?
Um, so, let's just pick up the funding part of it. Uh, for green hydrogen, if I begin with that, for green energy, for green development, money is easier to be found in the current environment. And so I see, and especially with the kind of partnership that we have in place, it's an easier goal to achieve. And in fact, I think we are reasonably confident about that. When it comes to the coal power development, it's a part of CPEC, which is a China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So the financing is essentially based on that. Historically, I mean, when I say historically, the last 5, 6, 7 years, etc., have seen an aversion to coal, and funding a coal mining project outside of Chinese sort of funding lines is not a real possibility, and continues to not be a real possibility. And I have explored all other options. When I came in, I did look. I mean, I still have had conversations with people in the US or other. People talk a lot. Oh, we'll invest in this, etc. But it's a hard project to invest in when it comes to opening up a coal mine. So, because it's a part of CPEC, we're confident that when the project is mobilized, CPEC funding will be mobilized for the project. So hence, for both these projects, which are on the opposite sides of a spectrum in energy development, I mean, currently I feel we are very well placed, because on one hand, green energy is the future, but on the other hand, the immediate energy crisis, we are sitting in a position to possibly address that, especially in Pakistan, and that is through coal development, which is not exactly going away anywhere. It'll probably be phased out, but there certainly isn't going to be a complete shutdown as was expected leading up to COP26. So, that too has changed. And the way the global scenario is changing, I believe that we are, actually now, batting on both sides, which is fantastic. And I think that's also a huge risk mitigation strategy. So to give away one of them does not make any sense, because both are equally relevant as we speak. However, and I always say this, at the right price, everything is on sale. So really, but because for me, to get a return is the most important part. It's business. So if the price is right, then yes. But of course, if we feel as a company that to develop it, to take it to the next stage and then divest, if that's better, then that'll be what we'll do.
That's great. I think we touched on the next question, but just in case there was anything further to add, going forward, Oracle Power will need substantial funds to move projects forward in Pakistan. Have any other parties shown interest in acquiring a stake? And I know we've touched on it previously, but just in case there's anything further to add.
So in Pakistan, the green hydrogen, I think I've spoken extensively about that already, and the role of His Highness, and how the whole nexus is currently placed, and how monies can be made available. So, but going to the coal project, the coal mining business, it's a part of CPEC. Coal to power is better, it's integrated. And if you were to separate it, then I could say that funding coal to power is easier than funding a coal mine, but they are coming, they come together, and they're funded as an integrated project. There's another aspect of this project, which is coal to gas and coal to liquid, which we've been pursuing. We've done a lot of work on it already, etc. A lot of that is available on our sort of presentation as well. Now, that particular dimension of this, we are looking at various other avenues for funding, etc. But because it's all dependent upon opening up a coal mine, that's where the CPEC funding will really be required. So whereas, yes, the answer is we explore other avenues, but fundamentally, the development of this almost $3 billion coal mining, coal to power, and coal to gas, coal to liquid, because it sits in CPEC, in the priority list for power, as well as in the program for coal to gas and coal to liquid, the Chinese would have to pick up the debt on that piece. And if that happens, then we're through.
Thank you very much indeed. A number of questions. Thank you, Ian, Ian F. and John, relating to your recent appointment. So if I may just read one of the questions that we have here. Congratulations to Naheed on being given a seat on the government committee in regards to coal development. In her opinion, does this, or will it make any difference? Will she have any meaningful influence to bring our projects to fruition or at the forefront as soon as possible? Does this new position make any difference to an LOI being issued re the power project?
So it's an honorary position. It's a committee. You sit in the right room. You interact with people who are some decision makers and some, sort of the administrative people, etc. So your networking and all of that, as you understand, is much better. Does it sort of render influence? The answer is no. But however, of course, you're a part of an important conversation, and of course, my priority is to ensure that So developing Block 6 clearly is commercially our need, and that's what we want to do no matter what. But given the situation that Pakistan finds itself in right now, it has no way but to develop coal going further. And to be a part of this conversation, of course, it's important, it's relevant. Is it going to be, is it going to sort of make a lot of difference? I can't really answer that, and I would not wish to use any position in that sense. It doesn't work like that. But of course, to convey relevance and to convey importance related to developing coal as an asset in Pakistan, all my energies, of course, would be in that, put in that direction, because it would work for us as well. And it's relevant, it's important, it's necessary, and it's the right thing to do as far as Pakistan as a sort of as a country, and as a sort of in the situation that Pakistan is right now, given its balance of payment crisis, its IMF programs, its inability to import, and all of those sort of that typical situation that you see a lot of countries similar to Pakistan in right now. So from that perspective, I would say it's important. It's a good place to be, and it's useful.
Thanks, Naheed. Next question reads as follows, quite an interesting one. It's well documented that if the 175 billion tonnes of coal at Thar was converted to diesel, it would be worth in the region of 23 trillion. In other parts, it said that Thar coal is worth more than Saudi Arabia and Iran's oil combined. Surely it's in the best interest of Pakistan to utilise the Thar coal for betterment of Pakistan's economy. How does Naheed think it would take? How long does it think Naheed would that Naheed think it will take for government of Pakistan to wake up?
I think the answer to that is that they have already woken up. The development of Thar coal has been delayed, sort of unreasonably, because it was discovered in the 1990s, and they should have developed it, but it was not up until 2013 that they started constructing the first coal to power plant. So delayed, and has cost the country a lot of money in with respect to import of fuel, and also some other bad decisions, if I may say so, like they set up imported RLNG plants, they set up imported coal plants when they should have really gone forward and developed Thar coal. But those are political decisions that that end up being taken, and this is not our place to sort of sit and criticize. But moving forward, I think there is realization that Thar coal absolutely needs to be developed. Opening up a mine is a multi-billion dollar task, and money is the issue. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in Pakistan, and we have disclosed this, we've spoken about it, because a lot of interest in what's happening, coal to power, LOI, and all of this, going on. And I've spoken about a program, a sort of a demand supply mapping called the IGSAP. So Pakistan has to determine how much power it needs, and so on and so forth. And when it says it has to, when I say determines how much power it needs, meaning that it has to then commit to buying power. If you don't commit to buying power, I can't make power, right? So that's the whole thing. So it all needs to come together. So the short answer is yes, there is realization. They are currently working on a way forward. We are working very closely with them. As soon as there is a way forward in terms of they can establish their need to buy power, we can open the mine, and or for that matter, expand any other mine. If I talk generally, and as far as coal to gas and coal to liquid is concerned, again, you need a buyback, a policy in place. Again, we're working on that extensively. So, and we have certain arrangements in place already. But to answer this question again in just one line, they realize they need to figure out how to do it.
Thank you very much indeed. A number of questions received, and thank you once again to all the investors for submitting their questions this morning around the Jundee East Gold Project. Recently, it was decided that the Jundee East Gold Project is not worth pursuing right now. Question is why? Is it because the team in Australia decided it's best to use available funds on the northern zone as it's a more advanced stage, or is it due to poor results? Will Jundee East be revisited at a future date?
Right. I think I addressed this earlier, but so no, it's not because of the funding. We obviously, well, no, correct myself. It's always about funding. I mean, we don't have all the money. We have to make certain choices. Northern Zone returned fantastic results. But having said that, it's not that we are now jumping ahead and starting to drill on our own in Northern Zone. We rather now bring in a good partner and work on that together because it makes business and commercial sense. And we apply the same logic to Jundee East. The results have not been fantastic, but the results are being reviewed as we speak because we believe that there is potential, and that is what we are looking at currently. And once we have established the way forward, that's when we will decide how to move forward with Jundee East, because it's the mineralization green belt at Jundee East is as I said, currently the assays, we are working with a couple of teams there, our team, and we've also brought in someone else to look at certain other kind of aspects of the results that we have at Jundee East, because there's much more there than we thought in a way. But of course, there are certain results that we think, we don't want to be misleading and moving in a direction without being absolutely sure. So that's what we're doing right now at Jundee East, and very soon we should be able to update the market as to how we would like to proceed at Jundee East. So it's not about the money, it's about finding the right way forward, which is commercially more profitable and useful for everyone's money. Otherwise, it's very simple to say, okay, we'll drill more, we'll do this, we'll do that. But, we just can't take reckless chances like that. We need to be very sure. And if we have partnerships, then it's always a better way to move forward.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. How likely is it that the Northern Zone Gold Project will be advanced to production stage with a joint venture partner? Have any third parties shown any interest thus far?
Yes, and if I may say so, we are in dialogue, we are in conversation. As soon as we have something firm, we will update the market, and whether it has the potential to become something like a mine. The answer is yes, it has the potential. The question as to whether we will find the right partner, yes, we hope we do, and we are working towards that. And if all goes as we think or as we're working towards, then those might just, the answers to all of that might just be a yes in due course. But of course, we will update the market at every stage and at every sort of step as we go along. And whenever there is something substantial that we need to, sort of let everybody know, we shall. But at this point in time, there are dialogues ongoing, working towards, something to this effect.
That's great. I'm going to break the next question into two parts, Nahid. So I'll fire the first part at you, which is as follows. What would you say is the key reason for investing into Oracle Power short to medium term for new potential investors? Green hydrogen, Thar Block 6 or gold? In what project are they likely to see most value created or returned in the near future?
So We are currently involved in some fantastic projects, which have, globally significant projects. I mean, the Australian gold projects, of course, those are, I would say, smaller and commercially viable and can be, of course. But of course, with like all mining, potential mining projects, we sort of, there's a pathway, and we're working on that pathway. And if one of them delivers, then you basically get a very good return from the money that you've put in, and that is fine. It's clearer, and I think there's a better understanding of that. As far as the green hydrogen project is concerned, that is, and so I would say the Australian story is not short term, but more like medium term, short to medium term, and there is a sort of a more clear direction. And for investors who understand that space and who like that pathway, then this is a very good avenue to be on. The green hydrogen project is, I guess, where all responsible money is going into, and it is the future, and it positions you to become a part of a very important market. And not in the future. I mean, if you think 2030 is not really future, is it? It's pretty medium term or even short term from some perspectives. So that's where you're at, and we believe that the green hydrogen project, we are aiming for delivery, for production, 26, 27, etc. If we really get everything in order, which isn't too far. So, people understand power production, people understand the type of sort of the play that goes on in the construction. So if you do all of that, we are not looking at a very distant future. And similarly with our coal to power as well, if we are allowed to proceed, then all of this is already in the public domain. We've got our timelines there. It takes 3 years for construction. It takes 1 year, 1.5 years, I would say, financial close, 3 years construction, etc. So again, I see all of these developments happening, if things go as planned, and as if we are able to get these across the line, then happening before 2030. In the next 2-3 years, these things will become much more real. And the contracts that people talk about, all those contracts will be signed off, and we would be looking at a company which is then sitting on multiple revenue streams, and that's not where we stop. So this company, Oracle, and to answer the question as to why people invest, is because they are then potentially owners of multiple revenue streams in different jurisdictions, and they are able to mitigate risk via this jurisdiction basket. So that's the way we present ourselves in a particular space, which is natural resource and energy. So I think for people who are interested in this space and who understand the value of different jurisdictions and different commodities in this space, then this is probably the best platform to become a part of.
That's great. The second part of the question reads as follows. It's been approximately 3.5 years since Naheed became CEO. Shareholders can appreciate all the hard work she's put in, and now that some new projects are at an advanced stage, how confident is she that shareholders will see substantial returns in the next 3 years or so? And importantly, does she plan to stay around for that long?
Well, I want the return as well, because I've got money in it as well. So, I'm betting on myself here. I think that's probably the best bet one makes. And all the hard work that I put in there, I don't know. Yes, a lot of hard work. Actually, it's been, and it is ongoing. It doesn't stop, which is fine, because unless and until you obsess about something, things don't happen. And even then, they may not happen. Man proposes and God disposes. So I don't know, but I do know that I've got skin in the game, and there's no looking back. And come what may is the attitude. Do I plan to stay on? Yes. I mean, if I can, I do want the return. I mean, as I said, if something happens and I'm unable to, that's fine. But I would still really want this company to deliver, because I have also, invested in it, and I continue to do so, and I will continue to do so, because until I have that ownership, yes, it's important. You're responsible even if you work for other people. But when you have yourself in it in a way that a lot that you have is riding on it, then I think the conviction is that much stronger, and that's where I come from.
That's great. And Naheed, I'm very mindful that I've exceeded your generous time this morning. And thank you to all the investors that have submitted questions this morning. As we said earlier, the company review all of these questions, and anything that we haven't touched upon, or we another answer is required, we will make those available to you, and you'll receive a be notified by email when that's ready for your review. Naheed, I know that investor feedback is important to you and to the company, and I'll shortly redirect those on the call to give you their thoughts and expectations. But I've wondered if I may, before doing so, just ask you for a few closing comments.
Of course. Well, thank you, Mark. I'm very grateful to you for hosting this, for giving me an opportunity. I'm very grateful to all of those people who've supported the company, who continue to support it, new people who joined in today or who may have heard about Oracle Power for the first time today. And I'd welcome their ongoing conversation with us. Any sort of interest that they have is very welcome, and I'd be grateful for their support too. And thank you to all the people around us, our PR people, our teams, and everyone who really support us and who believe in what we're doing. And I look forward to that sort of ongoing teamwork, and hopefully we should be able to deliver what we plan to. Thank you.
That's great. Naheed, thank you once again for updating investors this morning. Can I please ask investors not to close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order the management team can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Oracle Power PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending this morning's presentation. That now concludes today's session, and may I wish you all a very pleasant morning. Thank you.